It might be slightly different in the WWE Network/Peacock era, but back in the day when you had to fork over quite a few dollary-doos in order to see them, fans expected WWE pay-per-views to be worth the money. That usually meant that several of the matches had to be of real quality, at least much better than what could be viewed on free TV every week. Anyone who has seen more than one order-only WWE show knows that they're not always a sound investment. In fact, they're sometimes a little bit, what's that phrase again? There's sometimes absolute bollocks. Now, rarely will a show be top to bottom 100% awful. There's usually at least one match that stands out and makes you feel like you haven't been swindled out of your hard-earned cash. We've all heard of the term one-match show, and throughout WWE history, there have been a bunch of them. If that one match is a certifiable classic, it can save even the dreariest pay-per-view and live long and strong enough in the memory that you forget about the rest of the hogwash that surrounded it. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 classic matches that saved terrible WWE pay-per-views. Join us. Number 10, The Shield vs. Cody Rhodes and Goldust at Battleground 2013. Battleground 2013 was a bad show where nothing really seemed to click properly. The opener between Rob Van Dam and Alberto Del Rio got things off to a promising start, even if it wasn't a 5-star affair, but just about everything after it was, in one way or another, rubbish. Carly and Santino taking on the Real Americans do anything for you? How about Curtis? Yes, he really was Intercontinental Champion Axel defending against R-Truth. AJ Lee and Brie Bella get your juices flowing, do they? Not like that, you filthy simpletons. Bray Wyatt versus Kofi Kingston was aimless, CM Punk versus Ryback arbitrary, and Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan surprisingly unsatisfactory. The one positive of Battleground 2013 was Cody Rhodes and Goldust fighting WWE Tag Team Champions The Shield. Now, Rollins and Reigns weren't putting the straps on the line, but Dusty's kids were fighting for their jobs, knowing that if they lost, not only would they be banished, but their papa would lose his position as an NXT trainer too. The Hounds of Justice had been winning everything and were a well-oiled machine heading into the high-stakes contest. The work was good, as you would expect, but the emotion and drama of the storyline put it over the edge, the pinnacle coming when the American Dream himself got involved, leading to the euphoria of Cody hitting Crossroads for the feel-good win. Number 9, Kurt Angle vs. Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2003. SummerSlam is supposed to be one of WWE's premier events, an original part of the so-called Big Four and the biggest party of the summer. Well, the party got rained out and ants devoured the barbecue in 2003 because that year's SummerSlam was an uncharacteristically dull and disappointing occasion. The biggest letdown was Goldberg's failure to win the World Heavyweight title in the main event after smashing through most of the field in the Elimination Chamber match, only to succumb to an injured Triple H. But other anticipated matches, like Kane and Rob Van Dam's grudge clash and a talent-stuffed 4-way US title bout, also failed to spark. Luckily, Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle were on hand to pick up the slack, having a customarily exceptional wrestling match with the WWE title on the line. It was also different to their previous ones, as Angle was now the babyface champion, Lesnar the heel aligned with the villainous Mr. McMahon. They beat the hell out of one another for 20 minutes with all manner of suplexes, submissions, and dramatic near falls down the final stretch. And not only that, but it had the right result too, the Olympic hero overcoming interference from the genetic jackhammer to win clean by submission. Number 8, Roman Reigns vs. Daniel Bryan at Fastlane 2015. Fastlane was a soft substitute for the pure mayhem of the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, if truth be told. The last stop on the road to WrestleMania, the first Fastlane went down in 2015 and offered up a card that looked weak and turned out to be even weaker. The opening six-man between The Authority and the Odd Squad of Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan and Ryback was by-the-numbers raw fare. The first major match between Goldust and Stardust was an unfortunate calamity. The Usos and Tyson Kidd and Cesaro sadly underdelivered, as their match was alright but never really got going. Paige and Nikki Bella had to fight indifference for the 5 minutes they had. Bad News Barrett and Dean Ambrose's IC title meeting was plodding with a crap finish, and Cena vs Rusev was good enough but really just your usual Cena match. Going on last after the fans had been bored to tears for most of the show, Daniel Bryan tried to fight his way into another WrestleMania main event, challenging Roman Reigns with the big dog's WrestleMania WWE title shot on the line. These two are very good together, even on a bad day, but they were excellent here, making me less angry at myself for sitting through Fastlane by having a damn fine, drama-filled main event. Number 7, Steve Austin vs. Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. Bret Hart was due a rematch with WWE Champion Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 13 before the Heartbreak Kid misplaced his smile, withdrew from the show, and threw booking plans into chaos. The Hitman's plan B was a pretty damn good one though, taking on a red-hot Stone Cold Steve Austin, but the submission match stipulation looked like it could handcuff them slightly, with Austin himself worried that the match would be a disappointment, especially after the two had produced a blinder at the last Survivor Series. But he needn't have panicked, because the Texas Rattlesnake and the excellence of execution produced not just a great match, not just one of the best in WrestleMania history, but one of the best in WWE history, period. Heated, dramatic, and with an iconic finish, it truly was a thing of beauty, capped off with a clever double turn that saw Hart go bad as Austin officially became a hero. It should have been main event really, but unfortunately that honor went to The Undertaker and Sid, who turned in an overlong snoozer that ended things on a down note. The rest of the card ranged from poor to meh to just about good enough, and outside of Bret and Steve, is rightly remembered as one of the worst Manias ever. Number 6, the World Title 6-Pack Challenge at Fastlane 2018. Taking place just a few weeks after Elimination Chamber and only a few weeks before WrestleMania, Fastlane 2018 is a pay-per-view that really had no reason for existing. A SmackDown exclusive event, Fastlane pretty much resembled your average episode of the Blue Brands TV show, save for a bustling main event. An unforgettable end to an eminently forgettable show, the 6-Pack Challenge WWE title match that headlined was a modern-day minor classic. AJ Styles defended against John Cena, Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens, and Baron Corbin, and the sextet didn't bother warming up and easing into things, deciding instead to go full throttle from the off, the pace maintaining for the 20-plus minutes of the match's duration. There were some excellent multi-man sequences, nail-biting near falls, and importantly, genuine storyline progression on display. In the end, the phenomenal one retained with a forearm out of nowhere. It was total chaos, and it was just lovely to witness. Elsewhere, Nakamura beat Rusev in an OK opener, Randy Orton and Robert Roode snoozed their way through a US title match, Naomi and Becky Lynch fell to Natalya and Carmella in a match that happened, the Usos and the New Day went to an unsatisfying no contest, and Charlotte beat Ruby Riott in a token title defense. Number 5, Rey Mysterio vs. Chris Jericho at the Bash 2009. There was nothing great or particularly American about the Bash, a pay-per-view that existed for the sake of existing and didn't offer too much excitement for those that ordered the show, which, incidentally, wasn't that many people. The star power was there, and on paper, CM Punk vs. Jeff Hardy for the World Heavyweight title, Triple H taking on Randy Orton in a 3 Stages of Hell WWE title match, and the Colognes defending the tag straps against Edge and Chris Jericho and Legacy all looked solid enough. In execution, however, the action was mostly dull and booking questionable, in particular John Cena's demolition job of The Miz. Pulling double duty that night, Y2J put together a Mask vs. IC title masterpiece with Rey Mysterio that, outside of The Undertaker vs. Shawn Michaels, may have been WWE's best match of the year. A fast-paced wrestling rollercoaster that served as a fitting finale to their months-long rivalry, the stipulations added real stakes and only sought to ramp up the drama with every clever false finish, many of which alluded to previous contests in their series. The finish was genius too, as Jericho went to unmask Rey as he had done previously, only for the Master of the 619 to reveal that he had a second mask on underneath before pinning Jericho to win the gold. Number 4, JBL vs. Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day 2004. The SmackDown roster was left threadbare in the wake of WrestleMania 20 and the post-WrestleMania WrestleMania draft. Lesnar left, Angle and Big Show got injured, and while they had their ranks bolstered some by the arrival of Rob Van Dam and Booker T, the only two real top-tier stars were Eddie Guerrero and The Undertaker. The shallow depth of the roster was exposed at Judgment Day 2004, a SmackDown-only pay-per-view that mostly resembled a televised house show. Mysterio and RVD's opener with the Dudleys was fine, but everything after was weaker than a bowl of cat piss. Tori Wilson vs. Dawn Marie Part 57, Mordecai's debut match with Scotty 2 Hotty, Charlie Haas and Rico tangling with Bob Holly and Billy Gunn, and Chavo trying to get the Cruiserweight title from, Jacqueline, must have had some fans thinking that they had accidentally tuned in to an extended episode of Velocity. John Cena and Rene Dupree's US title match was decent enough, and Undertaker's victory over Booker T just about passable, but the real quality came last as Latino Heat defended his WWE title in an epic bloodbath with JBL. Obviously, everybody remembers the sheer amount of plasma that Guerrero shed that night, but the match itself was genuinely gripping and more than made up for the earlier dross. Number 3, Shawn Michaels vs. Mankind at In Your House Mind Games. As bad as things got during WWE's inconsistent and sometimes outright terrible New Generation era, you could always rely on, if nothing else, Shawn Michaels to give you a show, often being the show saver as much as the show stopper. Providing he remembered where he put his smile, that is. He did it at SummerSlam 1995 in his ladder match sequel with Razor Ramon, he did it in the cell against The Undertaker at Bad Blood 97, and by gum, he did it against Mankind at 96's In Your House Mind Games. Foley hadn't been around but for half a year when he headlined against WWE champion Michaels, but truly had a breakout performance that night in Philadelphia, with many of the ECW fans who had watched him years before no doubt cheering him on. It was an exceptional contest with a sadly unsatisfying finish, but it served as Foley's breakout performance while also showing that the flamboyant boy toy could show true grit when the occasion called for it. The rest of the show? Nobody needs to see Savio Vega and Bradshaw in a strap match, or Jose Lothario wrestling Jim Cornette, or Owen and Davey Boy beating the Smoking Guns, or Mark Henry's debut against Jerry Lawler, or for that matter, The Undertaker and Goldust sleepwalking their way through whatever the hell a final curtain match is. Number 2, Triple H vs. The Undertaker at WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania is WWE's biggest and most anticipated show of the year, a way to reward long-term diehards for their devotion to the product, while simultaneously being a way to hook casual or even non-fans on their brand of sports entertainment. A great WrestleMania can seriously turn a passive viewer into a lifelong foam finger buying member of the WWE universe, while a bad one can potentially turn them off for good. WrestleMania 27 was a shop window that showcased one piece of prime A-grade steak in amongst a plate piled high with spam. The filet mignon was, of course, the cracking battle between Triple H and The Undertaker, the two road-weary warhorses having a brutal no-DQ match that was a worthy follow-up to the Dead Man's WrestleMania series with HBK. From the special entrances to the pounding opening exchanges, right through to the streak-ending teases and inevitable take-a-win, it was a masterclass in storytelling and saved the show. Everything else on it was either iffy, just about good, or downright tragic. While Edge and Alberto Del Rio, Rey Mysterio and Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton and CM Punk all had matches with some quality on show, Lawler Cole, Snooki, and the dodgy main event dragged the show right down. Had it not been for the Game and the Phenom, it would be considered one of, if not the worst, WrestleMania ever. Number 1, the Elimination Chamber match at New Year's Revolution 2005. Was New Year's Revolution 2005 a cursed show? Now, I haven't dabbled in witchcraft since I accidentally gave myself a micro penis, don't worry, I'm halfway recovered now, but all signs point to yes. In the opener, Eugene blew out his knee as he and William Regal defended their tag team titles against Christian and Tyson Tomko. Then, in the second match, Lita blew her knee out early in her title defense against Trish Stratus. Following those blunders, Shelton Benjamin and Maven had 2 short non-matches, Muhammad Hassan stunk it out with Lawler, and then in the match of the night to that point, Kane beat Gene Snitsky in their usual monster battle. It was up to the World Heavyweight title Elimination Elimination Chamber to prevent the event from being a total washout. Luckily, Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, and Edge, with Shawn Michaels as special ref, came through and had a long and grueling scrap for the vacant title. It was a total one-match show on paper, and it turned out to be one in practice too. But what a match it was, delivering everything expected and more, and ensuring that the WWE Crew's trip to San Juan wasn't in vain.